Welcome to another episode of the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing. This week, the Secretary of Sport and Youth Affairs, Jomo Pitt, addresses the media.
I'm here to report on two overseas visits that I made within the last few weeks, one to Saint Vincent and one to the Cayman Islands. The trip to Saint Vincent, I was accompanied by the Technical Sport Director of the division, Ms. Liddell Hoyt Sanchez, and the President of the Tobago Football Association, Mr. Anthony Moore, Mr. Corwin John, President of the Tobago Cricket Association, and Ms. Ruthlyn Antoine, President of the Tobago Netball League. The purpose of the trip primarily was to establish a youth exchange development program with Saint Vincent. Preliminary discussions with the Vice President of the Cricket West Indies, Dr. Kishore Shallow. We recognize that we need to have a development program for particularly the smaller islands. In many occasions, we are omitted in the bigger schemes of things. That being said, the three disciplines I pointed out was football, cricket, and netball. The minister, Mr. Cecil McKee of St. Vincent, was very ecstatic about this initiative and was readily acceptable of going forward with it. As a matter of fact, he even suggested, and he has taken the lead on this, in establishing a Memorandum of Understanding between the two islands, Tobago and St. Vincent. The Attorney General's office is taking the lead in putting together that document, so to ensure that regardless of who sits in the seat, whether it be the minister or myself, that this program still remains. So I suspect I'm hoping by the end of the month that we would get this Memorandum of Understanding signing. Where the signing will take place, we are still dealing with that, whether it be in St. Vincent or in Tobago. Regardless of what island, we anticipate that we'll make an event out of it to signify the importance of this initiative. Also, the presidents of the three associations took the opportunity to get some information of the various programs in the sporting disciplines in St. Vincent to see what could be applicable here in Tobago. As you know, St. Vincent is one of the smaller islands and also has about the same resources, financial and physical resources, as Tobago. In some cases, from a physical resource standpoint, we were a bit ahead of St. Vincent. Regrettably, I would say even the National Stadium of St. Vincent doesn't have lights. Imagine that. But having said that, so that's the gist of the trip to St. Vincent. The trip to the Cayman Islands, again along the developmental path with a sport tourism twist to it. The Cayman Islands has a youth tournament, an under-15 football tournament. What intrigued me about this particular tournament is that there are two things. One, the ability of Cayman Air to facilitate free travel to Cayman Islands from any one of their hubs. So wherever Cayman Airways travel or flew from or to, teams were allowed to fly in for free. That definitely caught my interest. I'm thinking that along the same line, perhaps Caribbean Airlines might be able to offer provide such an offering if we intend to have a similar tournament. The other catch to it, or the other attractive benefit, was that they have at least one professional academy participating in this tournament. 2 years ago, they had Manchester United. Last year and this year, they have Washington, D.C. United from the MLS in the U.S. Again, one of the draws is that when you have these premier teams, they also come with their scouts, and they also look for players that they can recruit to be part of their academy and hopefully go further to garner a contract going forward. So against that backdrop is what initiated my interest in that tournament and my going to Cayman Islands. Going there, I got a substantial amount of information that I'm hoping that once I have a discussion with the various stakeholders, including the Division of Tourism, that we could have a similar tournament in Tobago next year going forward. Hopefully by that time, if all based on the timeline provided by the Minister of Sport, that the Dwight York Stadium would be available, so we could have that a similar tournament, either for the girls, who I don't want to compete with the Cayman International Tournament, so either U15 for girls or U17 for boys. Let me just back up a bit with regards to the youth program or the exchange program with Saint Vincent. It will be 2 age groups. The sporting disciplines will decide which age group it would be based on the agenda or their program of their governing bodies. For instance, in football, if the CONCACAF playoffs coming up soon, they will want to use that opportunity or use this exchange program to prepare the youngsters for that tournament coming up. So it would be for U15 and U19 for both cricket, football, and obviously for netball, it would just be for the girls. Having said that, the only other thing I want to make mention is that we finally got the final report of the feasibility study done on the indoor facility. That I have to bring to the Executive Council, but I will make it public once the Executive Council has an opportunity to look at it, and then we could get public comments on the report. It's very interesting. Obviously, it deals with the wants and in some cases the needs of the sporting fraternity in Tobago. But obviously there are some financial parameters that have to be recognized before we go forward. Again, I'm committed to have this entity that has been long outstanding brought to fruition within my term. And if all goes well, that is a reality that can be realized. I'd like to also take this opportunity to congratulate our Tobago-born, Tobago-raised, Tobago-based Mr. Brian Brown for his ascension to the assistant West Indies coach to one of the youth teams. I must commend Mr. Brown, who is well known in Tobago fraternity, both in football and cricket. I mean, to be selected as a West Indies youth coach is unparalleled in Tobago's history. What makes it even more commendable that despite the shortcomings and the lack of resources, both physical and financial resources, Brian has always been able to overcome these challenges. And I dare say, as successful as Mr. Bertil Sinclair has been in football, Brian Brown, I predict, will be the Bertil Sinclair of cricket in Trinidad and Tobago. So I want to take this opportunity to commend Mr. Brown for the good work he's done, both in cricket and the success he's had in the Republic Bank with his 2 teams from Titans. Congratulations and all the best.
To the indoor facility, what can you tell us? Is there anything from the report that you can share with us at this point in time that was presented to you?
There were some recommendations. One of the one that stood out of what is recommended is a 3-court facility. The estimated cost for the construction of that facility, because one of the benefits that they're promoting is that it would allow for international tournaments to be hosted in such a facility. They estimated that the cost for that facility would be about 100 million. Obviously, that has some ramifications with a monthly maintenance cost of close to 300,000 a month. That definitely is something that I am very much concerned of. Many times, regrettably, in this country, that we have facilities but we don't acknowledge the maintenance aspect of it. So from my point of view, my personal point of view, I would like to see once we could ensure that we could maintain a facility of that magnitude, by all means. But I will be guided by how much or what we could do with regards to the maintenance aspect of a facility of that nature.
Okay. When do you estimate that this would go out for public consultation?
I would say within a month's time.
Also, is there any assistance for the athletes that's going to be offered for those that are qualified for the National Junior Track and Field team for the Pan Am Juniors?
The national athletes?
From Tobago?
No, because they're national athletes. The governing bodies has to assume that responsibility.
Is the trip to Cayman Islands, is that at all associated with under 15 team that's participating in Jamaica? Or is it something else?
The Tobago team participated in that tournament, yes.
Okay, and what are your views on how they did and so on?
But that question has to be answered by the Tobago Football Association. My trip was separate and apart from that.
Countries we're looking at, sign this kind of
regarding
like how we're going to sign with Saint Vincent?
Yes.
Yeah, any other countries, Barbados or?
No, at this juncture, it would just be Saint Vincent. We're willing to expand Saint Vincent. There are other sporting entities or associations in Saint Vincent that were a bit want to be part of that agreement. As I mentioned to them in Saint Vincent, that right now these are the predominantly main sports on the island. Table tennis wanted to come on board, and there was some other sport, I think it was volleyball. At this juncture, I'd rather we have a product first before we get into that. I know we have some promising table tennis, but I don't think it's as big as in St. Vincent because they have a number of clubs on the island. Right now, I think we probably have one club on the island as such.
Any ideas, any plans to find a home for table tennis?
Find a home?
Yes, as in for the club in Tobago. They don't have a facility to practice. They were at Collar Hall, and they are using TN Tech.
All right. I mean, but I don't think we'll perhaps if and when we have this indoor facility, then we could. But again, I want to put this in perspective. Very few clubs would have a facility to their own. Using the St. Vincent model, and even in Trinidad, a lot of the clubs in Trinidad use community centers, schools, things of that nature. The National Racket Center is really used for tournaments as such, not for a particular home for a club. So we need to put that in perspective as opposed to thinking that a club should get a home for themselves.
Is there any way that the THA can help in that perspective as probably designating a community center for them to do their practices?
Well, I wouldn't say THA. What the club could do is identify a venue and contact whoever's responsible for that venue. So if it's a school, you contact the school. If it's a community center, then you contact the community development and ask them for permission to use it on a particular day or a set time.
Thank you for staying with us for the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for the week ending June 22nd, 2019.